Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points. The big talking point. Donald Trump has launched a tariff war. How will these tariffs impact India is the big question. And how should India now be responding to what is being described as the biggest trade war of the 21st century? That's our top focus. Let's tell you the 9 headlines at 9 tonight. US President Donald Trump slaps 27% tariffs on imports from India. India says carefully examining the implications. Commerce Department seeks feedback from exporters. Trump tariffs wreak havoc on Wall Street. US stocks plunge dramatically. Heavyweight companies like Apple, Nvidia, Nike suffer big losses due to their dependence on nations like China and Vietnam. Marathon Waqf debate underway in Rajya Sabha. Leader of the House, JP Nadda, accuses the opposition of spreading fear among Muslims. Congress hits back, says the bill aims to divide society. Two disheartened leaders quit the Janata Dal United in Bihar after the party decides to back their ally over the Waqf Amendment Act in Parliament. They say this is not the party that Nitish Kumar built. Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge dismisses allegations of land grab by BJP MP Anurag Thakur, demands an apology from Thakur to prove the charges or resign from Parliament. All 33 sitting judges of the Supreme Court agreed to disclose their assets by publishing the same on the top court's website. It comes days after piles of burning cash was found at Delhi High Court judge's house. Supreme Court upholds Calcutta High Court ruling to scrap hiring of over 25,000 teachers. Bengal Chief Minister says standing firm behind the sacked teachers. BJP asked Mamata Banerjee to step down. Big setback to the Telangana government after the Supreme Court stays felling of trees on a Hyderabad university land. The students' union launched hunger strike against the Telangana government to protect, they say, the city's lungs. And big buzz over a Modi-Yunus meet on the sidelines of the BIMSTEC summit in Bangkok. This comes after both leaders were seen sitting together at the official dinner in Thailand. India and Bangladesh looking to broker peace. But the story that's breaking today, it is now turning out to be a rather woeful and turbulent Thursday. Donald Trump's tariffs have now spooked world markets. The Dow has just plunged nearly 1,500 points in early trade, or 3.4%. The NASDAQ is down by more than 5%. Europe's benchmark index has fallen by 2.34%. Japan's Nikkei index has sunk by 2.77%. Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng index had fallen by 1.52%. So across the world, we are seeing complete havoc being wreaked at the moment. Let me first go across to Siddharth Zarabi, managing editor at Business Today, to just get a sense of what we are seeing happening around us. Siddharth, it seems a bloodbath at the US markets in particular. They've all reacted negatively to Donald Trump's tariff announcements. How is all this playing out? How are you seeing this all playing out? Is it global markets now spooked by what Donald Trump has done?
Clearly, this is the first evidence, and of course, very costly evidence for the self-goal that Donald Trump has scored for the US economy and for US companies and brands which have dominated global trade and commerce for decades. What you're seeing on the Dow, what you're seeing on the NASDAQ, and also the ripple effect that you will see across the global markets is very clearly on account of what will happen to corporate earnings and the ability of companies to do business in the manner that they did. Rajdeep, just one quick example. Nike, a brand that is known across the world, and Vietnam. 46% tariff hit on Vietnam. Nike employs by all accounts, around 450,000 people in Vietnam. It has 70 plus factories in that small nation manufacturing apparel, and almost 14 companies manufacturing shoes. That stock has dropped like 9 pins. So clearly the impact is on US companies, US producers. Initial rounds, reports of layoffs by some US companies have started, and this is even before countries in the European Union, China and some other dominant countries begin to unveil their retaliatory tariffs. So the pain will be borne first up and right up front by the United States, Rajdeep.
Before I let you go, Siddharth, you used a word which struck in my mind, self-goal. Explain to our viewers why you believe what Donald Trump has done with these tariffs amounts to a self-goal.
The United States has benefited over the last 4 decades by accessing global markets for its companies and produce, by moving out manufacturing into other economies, benefiting from lower cost manufacturing in different economies, and keeping prices of its products moderate for US citizens, and also increasing choice. That is now sought to be upended. 40 years of a trade policy is now sought to be upended by Donald Trump in 4 years, and this is just practically the 3rd, 4th month of his tenure. The manner in which these tariffs have been calculated, not me, but noted economists are talking about the absurdity of the calculation. Lesotho has been hit by 50% tariffs, and I think India is well placed relatively, because 10% is the starting slab, go up to 60% plus for China. We are in between at 27%. Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary, a globally respected name in the world of capital and economy, has said that this will cost $30 trillion to the United States. So I think it is very clearly a self-goal. And just as I was walking into the show, Rajdeep, Raghuram Rajan's comments have also come out, and he has used the word self-goal.
Okay, interesting. Great minds think alike. Raghuram Rajan and Siddharth Zarabi, both using that word self-goal there. Okay, let's just tell you that the big points. Donald Trump has launched what the world believes is little more than a trade war now. 34% new tariffs on China take the total tariffs to 54%. 27% tariff on India, 49% tariffs on Cambodia, 46% on Vietnam, 10% minimum baseline tariff, a 25% tariff on foreign-made automobiles. So that hits automobiles across the world. And a national emergency, he says, is to be declared to tackle the $1.2 trillion trade deficit. So average tariff on US imports now will be the highest in more than 100 years. Donald Trump has declared April 2 as Liberation Day. The Dow has, as I said earlier, is down 3.76%, NASDAQ down 5.6%. It all started around 2 a.m. India time when Donald Trump decided that he was going to go on what is being described as a potential global tariff war.
India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. And he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years. If you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. I call this kind reciprocal. This is not full reciprocal. This is kind reciprocal. But what we do is we cut it in half. We charge them. My answer is very simple. If they complain, if you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. Going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steel workers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen.
Donald Trump talking tough, talking of Liberation Day in the United States. Now, all of this has led to a global meltdown from Europe to Australia and Japan, South Korea. All of the leaders of those countries condemning U.S. tariffs. Many of them have vowed to retaliatory tariffs against the United States, led by the European Union. China, which remains the elephant in the room and which is now facing the potential of more than 50% tariffs, has also hit out and said there's no winner in a potential trade war. Listen in to global reactions.
President Trump's announcement of universal tariffs on the whole world, including the European Union, is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism. The consequences will be dire for millions of people around the globe, also for the most vulnerable countries, which are now subject to some of the highest U.S. tariffs.
美方打着对等的幌子。
The US side, under the guise of reciprocity, imposed tariffs on products from many countries, including China. This seriously violates WTO rules and severely damages the rules-based multilateral trading system. China firmly opposes this and will take necessary measures to resolutely safeguard its legitimate interests.
贸易战、关税战没有赢家。
President Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs. A reciprocal tariff would be 0, not 10%. The administration's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend. Today's decision will add to uncertainty in the global economy, and it will push up costs for American households.
So world leaders giving a thumbs down to Donald Trump. What about India? Remember, Donald Trump unleashed his tariff plan on India as well. And it's a mixed bag here. While he's levied relatively discounted tariffs on India, about 26-27%, and has kept some key industries like pharmaceuticals and semiconductors out of the tariffs on India, New Delhi is being cautious. The government says it's examining the implications as it continues trade talks with the United States. The big question then, how will Trump's tariffs affect India? Is it a setback, or could this be an opportunity for India? Take a look.
Starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations.
Donald Trump and his reciprocal tariff rate card upended the global trade order on Wednesday. He erected new trade barriers around the world's largest economy, reversing decades of trade liberalization and globalization. As in the other Asian economies, markets in India reacted with alarm only to recover later in trade. The revelation that sectors like pharmaceuticals, copper, energy and bullion and precious metals have been exempted from the tariffs energized investors. All these sectors are big contributors to the export kitty. Exporters in fact feel the tariffs could be an opportunity for the country.
I think India is at a much advantage. The opportunities for India will open, and this is the high time for the Indian exporters to increase their productions, quality and consistency in the supplies. I think the orders will start coming to India very soon.
The first phase of new tariffs on India will kick in from 5th April. The rest, 17%, will go into effect from April 10th. They will exclude vehicle and auto spare parts as well as steel and aluminium, which already attract 25% tariffs. The United States has been the largest export market for India in the past few years. But what also made India a prime target for the tit-for-tat tariffs is the huge trade surplus India enjoys with the United States. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today landed in Bangkok for the BIMSTEC summit. In his absence, however, the Indian government is assessing the impact of the reciprocal tariffs imposed by the United States. In a statement issued this afternoon, the Commerce Ministry said it is carefully examining the implications of the various measures and is engaged with all stakeholders, including Indian industry and exporters. It added that the department is also studying the opportunities that may arise due to this new development in the US trade policy. According to the ministry, discussions are ongoing between Indian and US trade teams for the expeditious conclusion of a mutually beneficial, multi-sectoral bilateral trade agreement which covers a wide range of issues of mutual interest, including deepening supply chain integration.
यूएस का काम है, उनका अमेरिका फर्स्ट है, ट्रम्प साहब का, तो मोदी जी के लिए इंडिया फर्स्ट है। अब उसकी हम लोग समीक्षा करेंगे, फिर क्या उसका असर पड़ेगा, कैसे उससे निपटना देखा जाएगा।
तो भारत में हर नागरिक कब तक पेंशन योजना के अंतर्गत आ जाएगा?
प्रयास है कि जल्द से जल्द लोगों को लाया जाए।
और सर आगे की रणनीति गवर्नमेंट की क्या होगी?
अब जरा टैरिफ देखा जाए, उसको फिर विचार किया जाए, फिर देखा जाएगा क्या करना होगा।
Prior to the imposition of tariffs, economists had projected a 10 to 30 basis points hit to India's GDP growth from the US tariffs, in part due to export restrictions and in part because of the economic uncertainty. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
So let's raise the big questions. How will Donald Trump's tariffs now impact India? How should India be responding? Is a trade deal with the United States the best bet? Or is there any silver lining in a way for India, an opportunity out there? Joining me now, our special guest, Dr. Surjit Bhalla, is an economist who served in various capacities, including with the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council and at the IMF. Anup Wadhawan is former Commerce Secretary, dealt with the United States, previous administrations, including Trump 1.0. Raymond Vickery is author and advisor on US-India relations, a former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Trade Development based in Washington. Ajit Ranade is one of India's leading economists, and I appreciate all four of you joining me on the show today. I want to start with you, Dr. Bhalla. What's your sense? Has Donald Trump upended the world order with what he has done? And is that, in a sense, something that we should have been better prepared for?
I've got three brief points to make, Rajdeep. You started off saying that China is the elephant in the room. That's wrong. China is the dragon in the room. The other 2 points are that we in India have had...
What do you mean by... can I just stop you? What do you mean by... Can you amplify that? What do you mean by dragon in the room?
The dragon in the room means that the central story about the Trump's tariffs is China. So in other words, if China had played fair in its trade, then we wouldn't have had this trade tariff war. So China is the cause, or China's trade practices are the cause for what is happening. But that, let me come now directly to the India situation. Every Indian economist I know, and several of them are writing, and even opinion makers in India, even comedians, Juk Saraya has said that, listen, we have to welcome the trade tariffs that Trump is imposing on us because it will make us more competitive. We have not been competitive. We have not had trade reform, and this is high time, and this is a very good excuse for the government to implement far-reaching trade reforms, which, if they are done, will be another 1991 moment for India. So this is an opportunity. You yourself said, is this an opportunity? We have not seen such an opportunity for trade reform in India until now. Third point, the economics of Trump's tariffs. As a very good friend and a leading trade economist, Robert Lawrence, said, this is Stone Age economics. So that bolsters my point that the dragon in the room is China. It's not economics. Well, it is indirectly, but it is the malpractices of China in trade with every country in the world has led to what we are now seeing as a tariff war, global tariff war.
Let me get my guests to respond we'll get the China question also. I just want to though focus for a moment on India. You've said this is our biggest opportunity possibly since 1991 in a way to get our trade policies in place. This is a huge opportunity. Do you agree with that, Ajit Ranade, that because Donald Trump is virtually forcing us now to lower tariffs, this could be a huge opportunity?
Yes, I agree with Surjit and others who have said there's a silver lining to this action, this drastic action from the Trump administration. And the silver lining is the following, that first of all, since 2015, roughly, our tariffs have been drifting upwards, partly justified by Make in India, a sort of incentive for that, or the production-linked incentives to protect those industries. But actually, they have drifted 4 or 5% up, which is actually opposite to the direction we have been steadily going since 1991. Our target was to reach the ASEAN levels. So to that extent, we will now be forced to reconsider reducing our tariffs. Secondly, the silver lining is the following, that actually compared to China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, all of them have got much higher tariffs now. And that leads us to some advantage. For example, take the case of towels. India is a major supplier of towels to Costco and Walmart and major chains in the US. But our competitors are Vietnam and all these other countries. If we can get our act together and actually exploit this opportunity, even in as mundane a product as textiles and garments, perhaps we can finally make this headway. But Rajdeep, let me warn you that while there are this silver lining, the bigger danger is that the stock market news that you gave, and Goldman Sachs, as also supported by the statement of Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, there is now an increased chance of a US recession, 40-50%. And a global recession will hurt India much more than whatever damage these tariff differentials or advantage we can get. A 1% drop in global growth is a serious impact on our exports. So in fact, this is something we need to worry about much more.
Let me bring in Raymond Vickery for a moment. You heard Ajit Ranade suggesting that what really there is a genuine fear, forget the tariff war for a moment, there could be a global recession as well. How are you seeing it? The American markets are totally spooked. Are you surprised with what Donald Trump has done, the Liberation Day, or was this expected?
I don't think anyone expected to be as harsh and as much of a sledgehammer as it is. What has occurred here is really a political move to try to play to the Trump bases. And it's not going to have an economic benefit by any means. It's based upon a lie in the sense that India is not charging 52% across the board in regard to tariffs. And it goes on from there simply to say that there is some basis for the calculation. There isn't really. It's just a matter of taking the deficit with the trade deficit with India and dividing it by the overall trade and saying, pulling out of nowhere, that that's all due to India's misactions in regard to high tariffs, non-tariff barriers, and regard to currency manipulation. This is all a false narrative. You feel like you're almost in a parallel universe. We're very much hopeful that the kinds of bringing together an opportunity that other guests have cited will come about. What this is really to further negotiation, but a lot of people are going to be hurt along the way, and it's no way to the economy.
Just to push you for a moment, I know we are having a bit of a problem with your video, but we'll try and fix that. But still to push you, Raymond, is there a sense that there could be a bit of a rollback? We've seen that with Mexico and Canada, that Donald Trump uses tariffs also as a negotiating tool. He will force different countries, including potentially China, described by Surjit Bhalla as the dragon in the room, to the negotiating table. Do you see rollbacks, negotiations now taking place across the world with America?
Yes, I think that this is the art of the deal, stock and trade of Donald J. Trump. To come in with a sledgehammer, an outrageous position, to get people scared, feeling like they have to negotiate with a gun to their head, and then somehow get something that he will consider to be a victory that he can hold up as such. There are negotiations going on right now with India and the United States. As you may recall, when Minister Goyal was here, they were put into place a mechanism to try to reach some sort of freer trade agreement by this fall. So this is stock and trade. This is vintage Donald Trump. But whether it'll work at this time is hard to say, because what it does is destroy the WTO, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the whole consensus, most favored nation approach, which has stood us well since World War II.
You just heard Anup Wadhawan, what was said by Raymond Vickery. He says this is quintessential Donald Trump using a sledgehammer. How should India therefore respond? We've got these trade talks taking place in the hope that by the autumn we could have a possible bilateral trade deal. He's kept crucial products, importantly like pharmaceuticals, like semiconductors, out of the tariffs imposed on India. Should we therefore see the glass as half full with the potential of a trade deal in the autumn? Or could Donald Trump be driving an even harder bargain in the weeks and months ahead?
Are you asking me? You know, very
yes, Anup.
Yeah. So certainly you see, it's a huge disruption of global trade, and I am not inclined to see these silver linings that, you know, it's an opportunity for us to reform our own house. We certainly need to reform on our own terms, but this kind of disruption is, you know, absolutely mind-boggling, highly disruptive, and one finds it hard to see any silver lining. Of course, there are some.
The silver lining, Mr. Dr. Wadhawan, is, I'm told that by economists that look, China is going to have much more severe tariff restrictions, much higher tariffs, and India could benefit potentially from that.
Yeah, so these mitigating factors are there. You know, tariffs on China are higher, tariffs on Vietnam are higher, tariffs on Bangladesh are higher, Pakistan are higher, Malaysia, Thailand. So certainly that's an opportunity. And the other opportunity is that US is not a manufacturing nation. It can't become a manufacturing nation overnight. So it's a self-goal of the highest order Americans will have to absorb these tariffs largely. They have no alternative. And America can't overnight become a great, manufacturing nation and substitute all these products coming from abroad. So it is very, very hard to understand any sense or logic in this step. And America, in many senses, will be the worst sufferer, and the world will carve itself around the US to have a
No, but
high
why do you say India, there is no silver lining here for India? Why do you believe there's no silver lining?
No, I'm sort of recognizing the silver lining, but I don't feel inclined to, recognize that in a situation where it's such a disruptive step and it's a door which has been opened, which will be hard to shut. These doors are easy to open and very difficult to shut. In some ways, it undermines the entire WTO framework in perpetuity. I don't see a situation where, credibly we can come back to a rule-based global economic order. And so the only sense you can make of this is that he quickly wants to bring people onto the negotiating table, and he'll quickly strike a deal because America cannot sustain these tariffs at these levels. They are not a manufacturing nation. Their entire industry will be gutted if these tariffs persist. And if the world retaliates to include American services, American tech companies, the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Microsofts. If the world retaliates, perhaps the lesson will be learned that there is a world beyond goods, and you can't equate American success with the, American goods trade deficit.
Okay, there are lots of strong points that you've made there. I just want to, before I carry on with the discussion, just tell you how has Donald Trump calculated these tariffs? What is Trump's mathematics or arithmetic quite like? While the White House tariff chart shown by Donald Trump claimed that this is based on tariffs charged to the United States, so if India was charging 52%, if India's tariffs are 52%, he's put it at 26% as retaliation. The fact is, many financial journalists are questioning how these tariffs have been based. Do they include currency manipulation, trade barriers? Economists point out that the actual formula is different. First, the trade deficit to imports has been calculated in percentage terms, which is divided by half to arrive at the reciprocal tariff. For example, the New York Times has given China's example. Now, America has a $291.9 billion trade deficit with China, divided by $433.8 billion imports from China, which equals 0.67 or 67%. That divided by 2 gives 34%, which is the new reciprocal tariff on China. Complicated, but that's how it is. Surjit Bhalla, we are getting different viewpoints. You're saying this is a 1991 moment for India if we are able to get our tariff act together. There are others who are suggesting that we could be pushing the world towards a global recession, or Trump could be pushing the world towards a global recession, and that's bad news for India. Is the glass half full or half empty?
Well, it's certainly half full, but let me expand on that. Look, and I'll respond to some of the points made by the other authors or by the other commentators. One, that we can't be a manufacturing nation overnight. So therefore, to think that that's the silver lining because our manufacturing will go up is incorrect. Well, it may not be, we may not become a manufacturing nation overnight, but this will be a very, very good start to become a manufacturing nation. Second point, a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. And I'll have a friendly bet with all the commentators, including you on this show, that the US will not enter a recession. Why? Because the deal is not done. It's not over. This is just the beginning. And there is a lot of room for negotiations, etc. And we'll see. So I think that is a bogey that we should not be throwing at each other. The trade talks with the US will define our trade agreements with other countries, with the EU, with UK, etc. So therefore, any start that we get here in terms of reducing our tariffs in order to make us a manufacturing nation, or at least move towards India becoming a manufacturing nation, is more than welcome.
No, but where does that leave
but
if I may, where does that leave the whole Make in India narrative? The Make in India narrative was based, we've got to, almost a Swadeshi narrative. We will make it here, we will protect our industry. Clearly, protectionism is out of the window then.
Yes, I hope so. That is why I'm saying this is a.
So where does it leave Make in India?
We didn't take that jump for 30 years. We did other reforms, but we did not take that jump on tariff reforms, neither in the previous administration or in the previous administration. So this is a big story. And last point I want to make, if we are talking about a rule-based international order, one of the things that is coming out from all the economists, etc., that this is both tariff and non-tariff barriers that the Trump administration and everybody else is talking about. Well, the country and the WTO, the country that has violated, if you will, non-tariff barriers is China. The country that has not operated according to rules-based is China. China is not a market economy. I challenge anybody to show any semblance of a market economy in China. So therefore, this is in our collective interest to get China to be a market economy, and we all may have to pay some cost. But I think the cost, certainly from India's point of view, will be minimal. It's in our hands. Our destiny is in our hands. Our trade is in our hands. And our manufacturing sector is in our hands. Let's just hope we play our hands correctly.
Let's then come to that China question, which you referred earlier, and again now the dragon in the room, as Surjit Bhalla has called it. Ajit Ranade, do you believe China is the dragon in the room? We are all talking about Trump appending a rules-based world trade order. Trumpians claim it's China which has repeatedly violated this trade order, and this is an attempt to get China to fall in line. If that happens, everything else will fall in place.
Well, for the record, Rajdeep, two things have happened even as we speak. China has already approached the WTO saying that these tariffs are in violation of MFN. So they seem to believe in the rules-based order of WTO. Secondly, the Senate, including 6 or 7 Republicans, have joined with the Democrats and blocked the action against Canada, the tariff action against Canada. So at least Canada is going to be not facing the severe tariff action. Now, about China, it's very fine to say that China has been knocking on the doors. WTO was born in 1995, and China has been knocking on the doors of WTO since 1999 or 2001. And the entire world, especially the Western world, and through the 90s and through 2010 years, they enjoyed immense amount of disinflation, not deflation, disinflation, and the import of Chinese-made goods in a massive way. Consumption, they benefited from low cost and also high quality, increasing quality of goods from China. So it's not as if this is a late realization. But then it became too much. So then it doesn't serve the US interest anymore. And they saw that the Chinese are not only good at making labor-intensive goods, but they are now climbing the ladder of 5G, semiconductors, space, cyber, and electric vehicles. So now I agree with Surjit that this is basically confronting China, because all this action is really, China is the center, is a target, that something has to be done about the fact that China has, if you may, abused or used the system. And but you don't cut your nose to spite your face. You don't put the entire world growth and world economy in such a big jeopardy. Not a single ally of the US is saying good things about this. I mean, I still believe India has silver lining. India's manufacturing, will get a boost. There's going to be trade diversification. There are multiple companies have multiple locations. They may relocate production to India. We are seeing that in iPhones. We are seeing some early success of PLI, even though it's across 14 sectors, but at least smartphones has benefited, maybe electronics. But this is not, the bigger story of spiting this putting the entire world economy in danger. I hope Surjit is right, but even the chairman of the Federal Reserve is saying there's danger of recession. So I know that China has to be tackled, but perhaps this was not this was not the only way to do it.
So the sledgehammer approach perhaps is questionable, but Raymond Vickery, there's been talk for a while that Trump or people close to Trump have been working at a backroom deal with China. That all of this, as some of my guests are suggesting, is designed towards China. If that backroom deal works out with China, the world will get back to normal. Until then, we'll have this constant uncertainty brewing. Is there a backroom deal in your view that the government is looking, the US administration is already looking at with Beijing?
Well, first of all, if China is the problem, why not just go after China in regard to the trade? Why go after India? Why go after all of our allies with this across-the-board sledgehammer approach? That doesn't make any sense to me. Does President Trump want to make a deal with Xi? Yeah, sure, he wants to make a deal. He's a real estate developer. Everything is seen within the context of a transaction. If I can do a transaction with Xi, I'll do a transaction with him. If I do a transaction with Modi, I'll do the transaction. But the problem is that system does not work. It led to international chaos prior to World War II, was a contributing factor in regard to the instability which provided World War II, and was something that we worked to overcome. Now, we had an imperfect kind of system which was put into effect, but the idea that you just throw the baby out with the bathwater and everything is going to be all right because Trump is a great deal maker is fantasy. It's a parallel universe, and it's going to do great harm to the U.S.-India relationship, to our domestic economy. You may not have a recession, but we're sure going to have inflation over here, and inflation was one of the two issues that got Trump elected. So this is no way to run the system, and it's really going to be counterproductive. Hopefully.
Dr. Anup Wadhawan, you're hearing very strong words from Raymond Vickery. This is many believe this is completely irresponsible. What Donald Trump is doing is using the power of the United States to throw the world into a tizzy. Now, U.S. Accounts for only about 13% of world trade. Could India then, in the worst case scenario, look for alternatives, look beyond the United States? The United States may be doing what America... How does one reconcile America first then with a policy of India first? There's a lot of talk in the Narendra Modi government, India first. How do you achieve India first?
I lost you part of the way, but I agree with Raymond. You have to really stretch your imagination to believe that these actions are aimed at China. It could have been far more pointed, without causing so much disruption. China could have been dealt with, and within the WTO system, there are mechanisms available to deal with China, its non-market economy status, its subsidization of products, its dumping of products. There are mechanisms available in the WTO rules, all the anti-dumping duties, safeguard duties, countervailing duties. So this sort of threatens the world order, and it threatens the world order in a manner which will be hard to turn around in the future, and it sort of causes great economic harm to the world. Of course, I'm quite
but how
sure
do you then build India? Sir, how do you build, as a former Commerce Secretary, how do you build India first? How does India first reconcile with America first? Can we build an India first narrative now, or are we dependent in a way because of this uncertainty to see what the United States does next? We don't know what Donald Trump will do tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think the two goals are not incompatible. America can never be a major manufacturing nation. It has transformed and graduated from there. And as far as Indian opportunities are concerned, we need to put our house in order. And I don't think, these actions are going to disrupt that objective. So in many ways, these two objectives are, independent and not
Yeah, but
contradictory with each other.
You know, I take your point, but Surjit Bhalla, have we got our house in order? It comes back to that. In the last few days, Indian officials have said, look, we are off the record, we are in trade talks with the United States, which is why perhaps they don't want to commit to how they want to respond to it. But we've seen previous trade talks with the Modi government, with even other countries not succeeding. We've not been able to get a bilateral agreement with the United Kingdom, not with Australia, not with the United States. Now suddenly we are under pressure to strike trade deals. Is the Modi government now going to have to change the way they've done their trade policies over the last decade? And can they do that? Will it work with their Swadeshi outlook on one side?
Well, that's why this is an opportunity. We haven't done trade deals, everybody agrees, for 40 years. We have not really reformed the trade sector. And this is an opportunity. I hope we realize it. I think we'll realize it. But, you know, basically, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, for example, like some of the commentators are saying, I mean, I can't believe they can be so naive to think that the US has not tried alternative methods with China. Look, Trump first brought tariffs against China, or first addressed the China dragon problem. Biden then doubled down. So whether it is Republicans or Democrats, they both have been on the same page. So to think that, look, you know, the world is acting irresponsibly because they should have tried all the alternative methods, I just think that is very, very innocently naive. So I think other avenues were tried. You talk to, I mean, I was head of a HLAC committee which looked at trade relations with our trade. And basically the fault was mostly, what the conclusion was, mostly ours. We didn't take the right actions. And as far as China was concerned, they thought that the only things India could export were Bollywood films. So look, China has behaved in a very, very, let's say, in a very combative way in its trade. And I think it has done the same with other countries. And that is why I say that China is a dragon in the room. I can't imagine this happening, what Trump has done today. And as I said in the beginning, there's no logic to these tariffs, etc. I've said that. And
okay, let me leave it,
Sujit,
let me leave it there. I think you've said that strongly enough, China being the dragon in the room. Some would say China may be the dragon, but Trump is also the elephant in the room, because we don't know what Donald Trump will do next. And because we don't know that, the world will continue to be plunged into uncertainty. Yes, Ajit, you want a quick response? 30 seconds.
Yeah, because, you know, don't be surprised, because Mr. Trump said Xi Jinping is my friend. So tomorrow, if BYD announces a $20 billion plant in Arkansas or Tennessee, the whole equation will change. The Chinese will, you know, they are also deal makers. So, you know, I think for them, 20 billion is nothing. So this is all real politics. I don't think this is, if a transaction happens, then the whole tone will change.
Transactional politics, transactional economics, we can only wait and watch in this country. It could be an opportunity, or it could simply plunge the world into greater chaos over the next 12 months. I appreciate all my guests joining me here on our big talking point on the news today. Let's take a break. On the other side, we're turning to our Get Real India story. Why is the coastal village of Munambam in Kochi a flashpoint for the Waqf debate? More on the other side. Welcome back. Now, the Lok Sabha late last night passed the Waqf Property Amendment Act. The bill is now being debated as we speak in the Rajya Sabha and is expected to clear the Rajya Sabha hurdle as well. So we will have a new Waqf Amendment Act. Now, outside all the political rhetoric, there is one village of Munambam in Kochi in Kerala that's become a flashpoint after the state's Waqf board claimed that over 404 acres of land were designated Waqf property in 1950. Hindu and Christian families in the village are up in arms, demanding that their homes should be retained by them or be given back to them. Here's a ground report by India Today's Shibibol KG, which reflects how the Waqf debate has widened divisions on the ground. Take a look.
A fishing village in Kerala is glued to the television sets as Parliament debates the Waqf Amendment Bill. Over 600 families, most of them Christians, living on a stretch of land in Munambam believe the proposed law can save their properties being claimed by the Waqf board. This has become an issue with the church, urging political parties of Kerala to back the bill piloted by the BJP.
Catholic Bishops' Conference of India recommended to all the MPs to support us. It's a fight for justice. 610 families are living here for almost 32 years with their properties, and because of the Waqf 95/2013 Section 40, the Waqf board has taken our property. Until we get the property back from the Waqf board, we will be continuing our protest.
95-ൽ നമ്മുടെ കോൺഗ്രസ് സർക്കാരും അവരെ പിന്തുണയ്ക്കുന്നവരും കൊണ്ടുവന്നൊരു നിയമമാണ് ഞങ്ങളെ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ഊരാക്കുടുക്കിലായിട്ട് തള്ളിവിട്ടത്. അപ്പോൾ ആ നിയമത്തിനെ ഭേദഗതി ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് കാലത്തിനനുസരിച്ച് ആവശ്യമാണ്, നമ്മുടെ ഭാരതത്തിന്റെ ആവശ്യമായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഭാരതത്തെ രക്ഷിക്കാൻ മുനമ്പം ജനതയ്ക്ക് കഴിഞ്ഞു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ മുനമ്പം ജനതയോടൊപ്പം ഈ ഭാരതത്തെ സ്നേഹിക്കുന്ന ഒത്തിരി പേർ ഞങ്ങളുടെ കൂടെ നിന്നതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ഒരു നിയമയുദ്ധത്തിൽ ഞങ്ങൾ വിജയിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്.
The dispute dates back to 1902 when the Travancore royal family leased 404 acres of land, already occupied by fishing communities, to a trader named Abdul Sattar Musa Said. On November 1st, 1950, Musa Said's son-in-law, Mohammad Siddiq Said, endowed the land to Kozhikode's Farooq College. A Waqf deed was registered in Kochi. In the 60s, a legal battle started between the occupants of the land and Farooq College. Later, an out-of-court settlement was reached. The residents bought the land from Farooq College at market rate between 1989 and 1993. In 2008, acting on complaints of encroachment of Waqf land, the V.S. Achyutanandan government appointed a commission. The Nisar Commission in 2009 identified that 600 acres of Waqf land as encroached upon. This included the land in Munambam. The commission said Farooq College had sold out the land without taking the permission of Waqf Board. In 2019, the Waqf Board declared Munambam land to be the Waqf property. The decision has been challenged in the courts.
These are the houses that's directly getting affected because of this, after they received a notice from the Waqf board saying that this land belongs to the Waqf board and they should move out from here. They have all the legal documents that justify that this land and property belongs to them. We are in one of the houses, that has got this notice, and in fact 2 years ago, after receiving this notice, their revenue rights were taken away from them. Were not able to, mortgage these properties to pay loan or to avail a loan also.
ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടുന്നത് ആരാണ് ചെയ്തു തന്നെയെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അവർക്ക് വേണ്ടി ഞങ്ങൾ വോട്ട് ചെയ്യുള്ളൂ. 35 വർഷത്തോളമായി ഇപ്പം ഈ ഭൂമി മേടിച്ചിട്ട്.
The Munambam land dispute has left the Muslim and Christian communities divided. Interfaith meets have failed to resolve the matter so far. The issue could have an impact in Christian-dominated constituencies in the 2026 Assembly elections. With Shibi Mol KG, Bureau Report, India Today.
The political fallout on the ground of the Waqf debate. Let me leave you with what I call our Only in India segment. In a recent event, the Aligarh Income Tax Department sent a notice of rupees 33.88 crores to a sanitation worker. That's right, a sanitation worker has got a 33 crore plus income tax notice, way beyond his salary slip. Some things can happen only in India. I leave you with that story. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Karan Kumar Valmiki is a millionaire on paper. The Income Tax Department has served him notice for tax evasion on business worth 33 crore 88 lakh rupees. The millionaire in tax records, in reality, is a sanitation worker at a State Bank of India branch in Aligarh district in Uttar Pradesh, earning 15,000 rupees per month. Karan Kumar Valmiki's family is in shock after receiving the income tax notice.
इसका जवाब मेरे को पोर्टल पे देना है जल्द से जल्द 31 तारीख को, जो कि हमने 31 तारीख को हम वहाँ पे गए थे इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट में, नेम सिंह सर हैं, उनसे मिले थे, उन्होंने बोला एफआईआर करो। हम फिर यहाँ पे आए रात को एफआईआर भी करने के लिए, पर अभी एफआईआर नहीं हुई है। अभी अगला दिन हो चुका है एफआईआर के लिए, फिर भी हो रही है, पर समझ में नहीं आ रहा होना क्या है। ना तो इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट की तरफ से कोई राहत मिली है अभी तक, और ना ही पुलिस प्रशासन की तरफ से हमें कोई राहत मिली है, बस भाग रहे हैं।
हुआ क्या है साहब समझ में नहीं आ रहा है। इसका पैन कार्ड कैसे पहुंचा, कहां पहुंचा, किसके जरिए पहुंचा, ये हम नहीं कह सकते, क्योंकि हमें पता ही नहीं है। ये पहला नोटिस है हमारे पास में, और वो भी शनिवार की शाम को मिला है ये।
Karan is not the only one to come under radar. Prince Suman, an ex-seller in Madhya Pradesh's Damoh district, has also received notice for tax evasion.
मेरे पास 18 तारीख को इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट का नोटिस आया था, तो मैंने उसको खोला तो देखा, फिर पता चला, तो उसके बाद मैं वकील साहब के गया, तो वकील साहब ने पूरी जानकारी निकाली, तो उन्होंने बताया कि तुम्हारे नाम से दिल्ली में रोड कंपनी चल रही है, जिसमें कम से कम 49 करोड़ का घोटाला हुआ है, तो उस वजह से इनकम टैक्स कब हुआ है।
इनका दिल्ली स्टेट में प्रिंस इंटरप्राइजेस करके ऐसा जीएसटी बना हुआ है, उसका मैंने जीएसटी की फिलिंग वगैरह देखी, तो उसमें पूरी रिटर्न भी फाइल थी। बाकी 1 साल से करीब वो बंद है, उसमें करीब 50 करोड़ के समथिंग इनका जीएसटी परचेस हुआ है, और 32-33 करोड़ के समथिंग इनका सेल का भी डाला हुआ है।
Karan Kumar Valmiki and Prince Suman are victims of an elaborate scam. Both have sought police help to nail those behind the scam. Bureau Report, India Today.